You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there, and welcome to episode 27. What have you been up to? Me, you ask? I have been reflecting about recent conversations with clients and friends and family members. Nothing new there. And when I sense a theme, though, I grab a hold of it and find a new way to share it with you. It's what I do. And I think especially now, we need to talk about this. At the time of this recording, we are well into 2020. I keep hearing how everyone can't wait to have this year behind us. We're closing in on a big election here in the U.S., and there's a lot of tension in general. Sometimes it seems like we're hanging on to our sanity by a thread. But I'm here for all of it. And I think we could use some focus as we buckle our seatbelts for the rest of this ride that we're on, and how we decide who we're going to keep riding it with. What do you think of when I use the term relationship? How about a nice dry definition to get us primed up? Here are a couple of ideas for you. One is the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. Also, an emotional or other connection between two people. Today, I want to talk about our relationships with other humans and what no one tells you about them. I have some truth bombs for you. Here's the thing. Strong connections with other humans are crucial for our survival as a species. Not only because we once needed to have strong relationships with other tribe members when we lived much more primitively, we needed this in order to be accepted and supported, ultimately in order to stay alive, but also the emotional connection that is crucial to our overall well-being. I think most of us understand that need today. We have family, we have friendships, we have lovers, and some of us have children. We all get to interact with one another. When everyone is interacting in harmony, or at least we appear to be doing so, we form this concept in our minds about what constitutes a good relationship. We think of such connection as this thing that occurs outside of us. And even the definitions themselves that I read earlier are so ambiguous. They seem to support that concept, don't they? An emotional or other connection between two people, for example. We can almost visualize it, can't we? We lock eyes with another human, the sparks fly, the flame begins to burn, and voila, a relationship. But it doesn't quite work that way. What if I told you that nothing at all happens outside of you, but it all happens within? That's right. Your relationship with another human is created entirely inside of you, in your mind. It all comes down to your thoughts about them. Indeed, that's certainly where it starts. So let's take that image of locking eyes with another human. You feel something. If it's love, that might feel like butterflies in your stomach. You feel giddy, excited, drawn in. And yes, it's true that if the other person experiences something similar, then you have complementary emotions. You're both drawn in and you have this great new thing happening. It feels wonderful and remarkable when you're both in agreement. Again, we tend to think of it as something that's happening outside of ourselves, perhaps because something this fantastic couldn't possibly be generated alone. But what if it could? What if it is? And what if it has always been this way? What if we've just never had it described to us in that manner before so that we can truly grasp the concept? A few things are happening here, so I'm going to bring it together. If this is the first episode you're hearing of this podcast, you might be feeling some confusion, but I'm going to touch on some areas that may help. First and foremost, and this is always true, no matter what, all of your emotions are generated by your own thoughts. If you're a returning listener by now, you know this is a bit of a recurring theme, and I repeat it because the repetition is necessary, especially in the beginning when we are just being introduced to the way that our minds work. Because in the beginning, it's simple enough to grasp on an intellectual level. Okay, yes, that makes sense. Yes, because it is new to us. We need that repetition and we have to catch ourselves because otherwise we're going to fall back into the old habits of thinking that everyone else around us is causing us to feel a certain way, that the things that happen out there in the world create our emotions. And that isn't true. It is always, always your own thoughts. Your thoughts about an event, an activity, a function, just about the way things work. That's where your feelings are created. No one or no thing can make you feel any way. That's all on you. And as I mentioned in closing in the last episode, that awareness can be both wonderful and devastating, depending on the context that your own brain creates for it. You can feel an amazing level of control or powerlessness, depending on how you view the true reality that you, and only you, are responsible for how you feel at any given moment in time. And this includes how you feel about another human. Whether you love them, or you absolutely can't stand them, or whether you're just neutral about them, it's all generated from your thoughts. Personally, I do feel like that's a very powerful awakening. There's so much that we can do with that awareness alone. Now, let's layer on another concept that I've talked about before, and that is how we view our lives as a movie that's playing out scene by scene. And we have all of these other characters or supporting actors that need to be a part of the movie as well. If we didn't have them, our movie would be pretty freaking boring. No one would want to see it, and if they did see it, it wouldn't be the least bit entertaining. We need other people. That's what makes life interesting. But here's where it gets tricky. We have this script that we carry around with us that the other actors in our movie need to get right. And that script is in our heads, by the way. They need to know their lines. They need to play out each scene with exactly the right voice inflection and gestures and perform their actions as we would like to see it all play out. If they fail to do that, they've done it wrong. I mean, how many times have you said, "I don't like your tone of voice," or "What's that supposed to mean?" I mean, what's that look about? And we start forming opinions and having thoughts. And as you can imagine, everything spirals out of control from there. So we have these two concepts that come together to create what we think of as a relationship. First, we have our own thoughts that create all of our emotions. Then we layer on the thoughts we have about other people and how they should behave, the scripts that we have embedded in our brains for how everything needs to play out, and we have more thoughts about them when they fuck it up. I know. It's truly something. And all of it is happening in your own mind. What if there is no conflict? Or what if the only conflict that exists is what happens when your movie scene doesn't play out exactly as you've envisioned that it should? Yeah, I know. What if your relationship with another human is really embedded in your thoughts about them? And what if you could choose to love them just the way that they are? Oh, wow. Let me bring one other concept into play here, and then we'll bring it all together to really drive it home. If you believe that every human is born worthy of love, then where along the path of life is that worthiness lost? Is it when a mistake is made? Words are said? When a crime is committed? Have you ever made a mistake? Does that mean you are no longer worthy? Well, the answer here is whatever you decide it will be, whatever you choose to think. There are plenty of us who believe because of our thoughts. Remember, a belief is simply a thought that you think over and over. There are plenty of us who believe that you can be worthy regardless of your mistakes, regardless of your actions, regardless of your crimes. There are also plenty of us who believe that when you make a mistake, when you take the wrong action, or when you commit a crime, you're no longer worthy. Who's right? Well, that's not even what this is about, and I'm going to save the right and wrong concepts for another day because that can also get complex. It's not about what's right or wrong. It's about what you believe and what your truth is. And all of it comes back to your thoughts. So how do all of these things come together when we are considering relationships? Well, let's take an example. Some of the best examples I can think of come from my younger years when I was really trying to find my way in the world and first being introduced to what it felt like to fall in love. I'd lock eyes with a boy, I felt butterflies, and I thought it's because of something he did, or how he looked, how he smiled, all those things. I thought it was because of him that I felt the way that I did. Then I looked for evidence that he felt the same way. Did he call me? Did we talk for hours on the phone? That's when we would actually talk on the phone. Back in the day, kids, listen up, boys and girls. Did we awkwardly hold hands when we were together? Were we in a relationship? What if he stopped calling? Was I no longer worthy? Or was he no longer worthy? What if he stopped calling because he didn't view our relationship the same way that I did? What if the version of his movie was just casual while the version of my movie had us getting married and having children together? Who's right or wrong? Who's worthy or not? See how wild this is? The answer is that no one is right or wrong. No one is more worthy than the other. We are both having completely different experiences because of our own thoughts. Because we can only create our experience through our own brain, not someone else's. We can either always be in control or never in control, depending on how you choose to see it. And I'm telling you that if you choose to view your relationship as if the other actors in your movie need to follow your script exactly as you see it playing out for each and every scene, you're going to feel powerless. You're going to feel out of control. You're going to feel lost, and you're going to feel like a victim. All of that, you and you alone are creating. Your relationship with another human comes down to whatever you have created in your own mind. Now, it's a beautiful thing when the other human has similar thoughts about you, and you can come together and create this connection. That's essentially an agreement. You both have complementary thoughts and feelings. So that's where the compatibility comes into play, and you get to live happily ever after. Of course, that's not reality, because as long as you have interactions, you have your thoughts, and your partner has his or her thoughts, you're going to have conflicts at times. Of course you are. The question is what level of conflict constitutes a decision to no longer continue the relationship. And again, that comes down to your own thoughts. Now, this works with absolutely any relationship that you have, not just the partnerships, but also the friendships and the family relationships. I do think that we get better at this as we get older and we have more practice with loving other humans, simply loving them, just as they are, without expectation, without condition. I've certainly found that to be true for myself. I find it easier to form new friendships, to develop stronger connections now that I better understand how this works, now that I better understand myself. I'm much more tolerant than I used to be because I no longer view myself as the victim in my movie. I'm not seeking to be rescued from my problems. I'm not looking only for people to agree with me or to lift my spirits, because I now understand that no one else can do that for me. I have to do that for myself. Or a better way to view it, of course, is that I get to do that for myself. I also think that the key to forming solid, lasting relationships with other human beings is to start with yourself. After all, if everything starts with your thoughts, when was the last time you explored your thoughts about yourself? If you don't even like yourself, if you don't want to be with yourself, you tend to put that responsibility on other people to lift you up, and you think that you'll feel better when they show you love or acceptance. You start to believe that you need that in order to feel whole or complete. You've been thinking these same thoughts for so long that you probably haven't even stopped to ask yourself how that even makes sense. What does it even mean for someone else to show you love or acceptance? I mean, sure, they can take certain actions or say certain words, but at the end of the day, is it authentic, or are they following the script that you've written in your mind? And why does it matter either way, as long as you're getting what you've decided that you need? That's really it, isn't it? If the people in your life will just follow your script, then everything will be okay and you will feel loved and accepted. Therefore, more capable of giving love and acceptance to others. Yeah, except that's not how it works. Of course, it feels wonderful when two humans have a mutual understanding and agreement, for lack of a better word, that you both feel almost the same about one another. That feels magical and wonderful. That feels like connection. It's one of the most beautiful parts of being human. And when you understand that you have the ability to create that connection within yourself, When you have awareness that it all starts with your own thoughts and that no one else needs to give you that love and acceptance, that you can create that for yourself with your own thoughts, that feels like sweet freedom. That feels simply amazing and very complex. This is why it is so crucial to understand your thoughts, to have full awareness of them, and to start observing them. It sounds simple enough, but it really does take practice. That's why doing those daily thought downloads is so important. It's hard to know what needs to be changed or adjusted if we don't ever take a look inside. We think that other people need to behave a certain way toward us, when the reality is that they can do and say whatever they want to. And by the way, they will. It doesn't mean anything about them, and it doesn't mean anything about us until we assign meaning to it with our thoughts. Because something as simple as he didn't call or he didn't text, while it's a thought, it's also a circumstance. It's neutral. It is fact. But we take something as simple as he didn't text and we twist it around in our minds until we make it mean something about him or something about ourselves. He didn't text because he's an asshole. It's going to lead you down one path. He didn't text because he doesn't love me is going to lead you down a completely different path. And either one of those paths that you travel down is going to impact your relationship, which, may I take this moment to remind you, is happening entirely in that brain of yours. Your mind assigns meaning, either good or bad, to the words and actions of others, and that becomes a basis for your relationship. My mother never loved me is a thought. She's not a true friend is a thought. He doesn't respect me is a thought. And from those thoughts, your emotions are created. You take actions based on your feelings, and those actions bring about your results. So while it may not seem like it in the moment, while it may seem involuntary, these emotions that you feel, and of course you're going to feel a certain way if he doesn't text, the reality is that you always have a choice. You have a choice in that moment to decide what you're going to think about the actions of others. You can choose to twist it around in your mind and assign meaning to it, either about that other person or about yourself, sometimes a combination of both, or you can choose to let it be what it is, to let your partner, your parent, or your best friend just be who he is, who she is, and you can love them anyway. That doesn't mean that you agree with the behavior or condone the actions. It just means that you don't have to beat them up or beat yourself up over something that you have no control over. Because as much as we want to believe that we can influence the behaviors of others, it is ultimately their choice. And they're driven by their own thoughts, their own emotions, and their own actions. And so trying to get up in their brains and trying to analyze why they do or don't do or say or don't say the things the way that you would like them to is not helpful at all. Remember, we don't get to control the other humans. We do get to control the way that we think about them. And really, that can be so refreshing when it's all said and done. To know that we actually have a new way to view things, a new perspective, can honestly be so helpful as we navigate this life, as we ride this ride, to know that we have the power to create our own connections through our thoughts is so amazing and so insightful. As I said, it's freedom. And I know I've said this before, and I like to remind myself of it often because it does feel powerful to experience freedom in this way. To know that no matter what another person says or does, I can choose to love them anyway. And that's where our relationship can land, wherever I decide that it will land, wherever I choose for it to land. This can also include past relationships. Even if someone you love is no longer alive, you could still have a relationship with that person in your mind. You can still have loving thoughts about your grandparents or your parents, not only through recalling wonderful memories, but also through generating current thoughts about them. The same is true for your first love. Most of us don't end up marrying and living happily ever after with the person that we fell head over heels for at age 13. Some people do. I actually know some people that have. Not many of us, though. Just because you don't have continued interaction with him or her doesn't mean that you can't still have some level of connection. I'm not talking about obsessing over what could have been or living in the past. What I'm saying is that if you have a notion that something is unresolved with a past relationship, and that if you just had one more opportunity to say what you want to say, that you would magically feel better, I would like to challenge you to take a look at those thoughts. You have the ability to change the way that you see things without having any interaction at all, because it's all about your thoughts. One simple shift can change everything. We tend to think that real, lasting, and genuine relationships take work. Not only work on our part, but work on the part of the other person involved. And while that's true, the work itself is all within. It's truly all in your mind. That's where the effort is. That's where you understanding yourself and your own thoughts about everything and everyone around you becomes an absolute game changer. When you can let go of your need or your desire to control other people or even try to influence them, and you can just let them be who they are and show up however they do, without making it mean anything about you or anything about them, you're going to experience so much ease in your life. Honestly. And I know this is hard to hear or difficult to think of yourself as wanting to control other people, but I think if you really take a step back and inspect your thoughts, you'll find that to be true on some level. That doesn't mean you're a bad person, so don't go beating your self-judgment drum. It just means you are human. It's what we do. We create these scripts in our minds. We imagine how our movies are going to play out, and we envision all of the ways that our supporting cast will show up and how great it will be as long as they play along, as long as they get those lines right. And we do it all for the connection, for that sense of love and belonging, that self-actualization that, quite honestly, we are creating in our minds. As Brené Brown so famously says, connection is why we are here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Neurobiologically, it's how we are wired. We are wired for connection. We seek it out. We look for all of the ways to find it in other people, yet so much of the time we miss how to find it within ourselves. We look for it as something to be given to us rather than realizing that we are the ones who can make it happen ultimately. We miss that every relationship that we have is created in our minds and born of our very own thoughts. And that's how we get to keep them going. No matter what has happened in the past or what will happen in the future, we get to keep those deep connections that we have made with other humans, and we get to create new ones and to nurture them too. It's all about desire. It's all about choice. It's all about deciding that this is what we want. And it's all about releasing all expectations that you have for the other person. When there's a mutual agreement, when you both decide the same outcome, fantastic. If not, then that's fine too. Either way, it's working out exactly how it's supposed to work out. That's how relationships work. Even if they are no longer active in real life, perhaps they have run their course or someone is no longer living, they still have their meaning and their purpose. That's how they live on. That's how we indeed create lasting relationships. And one of the best Rumi quotes I can pair with this topic is this very simple one. If I love myself, I love you. If I love you, I love myself. Boom. Start within, my friend. Everything else will happen exactly as it is meant to happen. Above all, don't forget to love along the way. That's the most important part of this journey. I know this is a deep topic, so we'll come back to it again. I just want you to consider the idea that love and belonging and connection are not things to seek outside of yourself, but instead, these are the very things that naturally fall into place when you approach those around you with the same love and compassion that you crave for yourself. The more that you're willing to go inward, the better your experience is going to be out there in the world with all of the other humans. Start with the one that you see in the mirror. Having lasting relationships and healthy ones are needed now more than ever. If you would like to make improvements in this area of your life, I'm absolutely here for you. Head over to my website at sunnythelifecoach.com. Click Let's Do This, and we will be on our way. Light up, shine on.